United Airlines has officially settled with Dr. David Dow. He is the man who was dragged off a United flight because he was unwilling to give up his seat on an overcrowded, overbooked flight. Now, we don't know what the details of the settlement are, but we do know that his lawyer, Dr. Dow's lawyer, is very much happy with whatever the settlement is. He says Mr. Munoz, who is the CEO of United, said he was going to do the right thing, and he has. In addition, United has taken full responsibility for what happened without attempting to blame others, including the city of Chicago. Now, when the story first unfolded, of course, there was a lot of blame placed on everyone else other than United by the CEO of United. And then when he realized that wasn't gonna fly with people, he kind of became a little more apologetic about the incident. Now, United Airlines has pledged new protections for its consumers, clients, whatever, its passengers. And so I wanna give you the details on that. Now, the airline announced 10 new or updated customer service policies aimed at preventing episodes such as the one that occurred on that flight, and released an action report on how the events on that ill-fated flight unfolded. United said that starting Friday of this week, employees will be able to offer up to $10,000 to try to entice overbooked passengers to take different flights. United also said it would reduce overbooking. So let me just elaborate a little more on how they plan to overbook less. They want to focus on the flights where people are usually the least likely to give up their seats, and they'll be better about not overbooking those flights. At least that's what they say. But they don't really get into specifics in terms of numbers and all that. And also, the whole thing about employees being able to offer up to $10,000, wasn't that already part of the law?
No, it wasn't in the policy. It seemed like it topped out at like $800 or so, or $1,000. This saying it explicitly, I mean, maybe it will eventually drive up the price of what people are willing to expect, knowing that there is an upper boundary. Because before they had said, let's just go up and then we'll hit a top of like 1,000, and then we're gonna ask people to get off the plane.
I've never seen them go over 1,000. What I will say is I'm flying United tomorrow, right? And I was on a flight and I noticed that I didn't have a seat on the second leg of my flight. So I went in to try to get a seat, and all the seats that were available were for sale. There were no free seats available after I already purchased this ticket. So I think that people are just tired of getting hustled.
That's absolutely right.
It's just they're tired of getting hustled.
It's the one, I don't know if it's the one and only, but it's one of the few things out there where you will be a paying customer, you will pay for your ticket in full, and you're not guaranteed that flight, and that's crazy, especially considering how expensive it is.
If I went on StubHub and I ordered a seat at a basketball game, the playoffs say, and I showed up and someone else was there and they were like, sorry, we couldn't, we'll have to reaccommodate you for a later game.
Right.
You would say, no, that seems to me to be fraud. And I talked to a lawyer about how you would go about building a case against United on behalf of all the people who've been displaced by overbooking, which seems to be like fraud. She said that the problem was so many people end up taking the money that that's like a done deal. And you have to then find people who'd been picked up and taken off the plane as a result of overbooking, and where no one was willing to give up their seats. And that's just a harder class to find.
Yeah, but you know what? It's just gotten downright disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, they took the food off the planes. Now you got to pay for everything. You even have to pay to be a hero on the airplane, because you got to pay to sit in the emergency aisle. And that is like you're paying to save people's lives. Like, come on, son. That's just like ridiculous. Like,
you know that's not why people do it. They're like extra leg room.
I know,
and then they're like willing and able to assist in case of emergency, and you're just like, oh crap.
$123 now. It's not. It used to be like 29 bucks.
Really?
It's like gone over $100.
So with the increase in automation, all the airlines have been able to more accurately figure out what seats aren't going to be filled, like how many people are going to miss those flights, and that's how much they overbook by. But they did say that in this new system, they're not going to overbook as much on, say, the last flight of the day, because a lot of people miss that first flight.
Yeah.
And then they get bumped throughout the day. And who knows by the end of the day.
I don't care how many people miss the flight. I don't care if they have sold a ticket for a flight and literally no one, they have sold every ticket for a specific flight and no one for that flight shows up. I don't care. I don't care because guess what? They already paid for that ticket and you guys aren't gonna refund them. Getting a refund, I could be dying of cancer. I could find out that I have cancer right now. Stage 4 cancer, and I have like 1 week left to live, and I have a flight planned for tomorrow. They will not give you a refund. They'll be like, "Go fuck yourself."
They don't. And when even with the insurance, it's also a hustle.
It is a hustle. Yes,
you have to provide a doctor's note. So I know that you United people are like, yes, I'm so glad that American flight attendant almost busted that lady in the head with that stroller. Yes, he wanted to fight a passenger. Take some of the heat off of us.
It's because we have less options in terms of, airlines to fly with, and they get to treat us however they want because there isn't enough competition in that world.
Well, there's still FAA regulations. I will say I've talked to flight attendants lately who say like people are becoming monsters on the plane because they want I saw someone say that it's essentially like who wants to be the next airplane millionaire. This guy David Dow got a lot of money. They're not going to talk about how much, but I'm sure he got a lot of money.
Yeah, they broke his nose and he lost teeth. But the other thing is let's not disregard the fact that these flight attendants have become emboldened, and since 9/11, they're just, you can say one thing that will piss a flight attendant off. I watch them, and it's like, all right, you can get off the plane. It's like the tolerance and the customer service. I flew United last week. They were so nice. The people were like, thank you so much. You can tell it was like overcompensating.
I know a lot of flight attendants, and there are really great flight attendants, and just like any job, there are the ones who are like, oh my God, I'm flying with this person today. And that happens. And the ones who end up confronting folks and making people angry are the ones who are like, oh my God. But then again, like, it is such a difficult job to have, especially after 9/11. Like, that fear of dying is pretty rough if you're always getting in the plane. And I do totally hear that some folks just like say, all right, I feel threatened or whatever it is. And there's a danger that when they say they are only going to use force to bring people out of the plane in the case of safety and security, well, then you only need to get it to the point where you provoke someone into being a safety and security threat, and then you can get them off.
Well, you leave a lot to interpretation because United was the airline that had the problem with the leggings, right?
Yes.
So it's just like that one flight attendant says you're a threat. That one flight attendant says you're dressed inappropriately. Some people just don't know how to handle power. And I think if that's such a stressful job and you know what the risks are working there, then go work at Chuck E. Cheese.
It is also a schlep and a half to get someone off the plane and get their bags off the plane. You would rather have everyone in there and just shut the door and let's get going because all those people have to get home.
Yeah, and look, one other thing that they said that they will avoid doing moving forward is if someone has already boarded the plane, they will not kick that person off unless they are a safety risk. Now that's a policy that should have existed before this whole debacle, but they've decided that, hey, maybe now it's time to kind of switch things around because we're getting so much negative press attention. But either way, just because you guys, the big airlines, have been able to buy out the smaller airlines and we have less competition and less options doesn't mean that you get to treat paying customers like they're garbage, and that's what keeps happening time and time again, not just by United, but by a lot of the major airline companies. Look, the only time I haven't had a problem, and hopefully I never do have a problem because I love them, is JetBlue. They're not a sponsor, this is not an advertisement. I've always had a good experience on JetBlue.
I like JetBlue.
Southwest too, because you get your refund, you can use your money.
Yeah, but then you have to like look around and see like, what seat am I getting? Are you gonna jump in front of me?
Sometimes
Are you gonna jump in front of me?
I don't like that. I hate that, like, because we're savages, man. Like we're like civilized sometimes, but at the end of the day, we're animals like fighting for survival. And you see how animal-like we are as humans at an airport. At an airport, as soon as that person picks up that microphone and says that they're about to start boarding, everyone's like,
Right, and I will say another thing.
Why are you standing in line, bro? Why are you standing in line? Like, you're not gonna move for like another hour. Why are you standing in line? And your luggage is too big. Your luggage is too big.
She's standing up. She got up off her seat.
It just makes me crazy.
Well, I fly every week because I have to for comedy,
Right.
but I'll tell you with Southwest, I don't like the seating arrangements, but I like the fact that I don't have to pay extra for my bags because I can travel with my merchandise. The flight attendants tend to be pretty cool. And when I can't make the flight, I can always use that money and get, I can appropriate it for another flight as opposed to this $200 extra charge and a price in fare.
I will say the reason that Southwest has been able to do that is because they essentially hedged gas prices. So they bought back when the gas prices were super high.
Yeah.
They had already scheduled out the purchase of their gas ahead of time. So they were paying a much lower price for gas, so they were able to keep a lot of their prices lower.
You know what I like? I like people who plan ahead.
Right,
That's what I like.
listen, there's a lot of stuff to be said. Also, just the last point about flight attendants on airlines like the one that you saw in the United commuter flight from whatever it was, Chicago to Louisville. Like, those aren't necessarily like United flight attendants. Those are Air Republic or whatever the name of that subsidiary, that small airline that got bought was. And I've talked to tons of flight attendants who have been absorbed by major airlines who get screwed by the new union that they have to sign up for. And there was one woman who wanted to buy a house, and she's like, maybe now after the purchase and my lack of whatever pension that I had to give up, now I'll just buy a tiny house maybe.
Yeah.
And she they swoop in and they take your benefits, and then you're kind of screwed. So maybe you are cranky and you do want to get back to Louisville.
I mean, that's everybody though, right? The writers are about to strike. Everybody's like,
it's tough times.
Tough times.
Corporate media is awesome.
Wrong.
Independent media is the way to go.
Believe me. Believe me.
Support independent media right now. Become a Young Turks member. TYTnetwork.com/join.